So good afternoon, everyone. So I first started my involvement with the sheep CRC back in 2003, and I'd just like to start by saying that eIDs are only as good as the system you build around them. So when we started, we had no system. The sheep CRC sent out a chap, he helped me put electronic tags on my sheep. He left me that kit up there, and away he went. And I was able to get that wand and read a tag, and it went beep, beep. That was it. There was no software, no integration, nothing to tie it all together. So I thought I'd start by just going through the system that we use at home currently. So let's start at joining time. So we use a system called MateCell to allocate our ewes and rams. So I need to get those ewes into 25 groups. Obviously an auto drafter is a very handy thing to be able to do that. So it drafts them up. At the same time we get weights, so we get our mating weight. We also get condition scores at that time. So up here, here's the kit we use. We have a stick reader, a set of headphones and a little keypad. So you will scan the tag on the sheep. The headphones will call out the field that it's looking for and it'll say condition. You'll condition score the sheep, type it in. It'll read back the number you've just put in so that you know you've got it right, and then it'll call out the next field. At joining time, we also take a roll call of all those ewes. So we take a roll call of the rams they go out with. And when the rams come back in, we take another roll call, because you'll be surprised to know that the ewes don't always stay with the rams that I put them with. So it's handy to know what they're doing and how they're swapping around. The next part of the program is preg scanning. So we actually have a contractor come in that has his own auto drafter, own panel reader. All I have to do is stand behind that little tent and keep pushing sheep in and make an effort not to talk to him too much while he's working. At the end of the day, I just give him a memory stick. He gives me back that same memory stick with dry, single tin, triplet and early and late, and all I have to do is import that into my software. We come back around to lambing, so obviously I've been managing those sheep as single and twin bearers. Now I need to get them back into lambing paddocks, so back in through the auto drafter they go again. Obviously at lambing time there's a portion of our flock that we pedigree record through the yards, so when the ewes and lambs come in we scan that ewe. And the system goes back and historically pulls up those ram in, ram out dates and scanning results and builds the pedigree for us. So we don't have to work out who the sire is. The system does that. If it's an AI program, it'll check to see whether it's the AI sire or the backup sire. And obviously it'll flag problems. So it's one of those ewes that goes out with one ram and comes home with another one. The system flags that and we get to deal with it then. Then we move on to marking. So at marking time, that's when our eIDs start their life. So that's when we put them into the lambs, match them up with their visual tags. The system highlights the lambs that we need to take DNA samples from at this stage. So there's a barcode printed, we take our samples and they get sent away at that stage. There's also a portion of our flock that goes through a pedigree matchmaker system. So we can see up there, there's your portal and your panel reader, and that tracks ewes and lambs into water, and from that we're actually able to work out a pedigree. And then at the end of the year, we're back to classing the ewes. So the system then presents all the information that's been gathered through the year on those ewes while we make a decision to see whether they go through another year. So for me, that's our eID system on the farm. You'll notice I haven't mentioned just gathering body weights or microns. That's the really easy stuff. eIDs are more powerful when it's combined in a whole system that delivers information to you as well as you sending it back and away to somebody else. Given that this is a sheep CRC, the first real thing that I had a big involvement with the sheep CRC was developing the pedigree matchmaker system. So we put the first pedigree matchmaker in at a home in 2005. Here's a graph, a little pink line through the middle is how many lambs we could accurately match to their mothers on any given day's worth of data. But over the course of time, if we accumulate that data, we can actually match up 90% of their lambs to their mothers. And this was really exciting and interesting times. With the sheep CRC, it also got a lot of traction in the media. So in 2006, we actually ended up on an episode of Landline, so myself and Steve Semple. I remember being down the paddock one day and James rings me up, and I thought it was just a polite chat, see how the program was going. And at the end of the phone call, he said, by the way, Mark, I've entered you and Steve into the ABC New Inventors program, and here's the date that you'll need to go down to Sydney. And in hindsight, that was really wise, because if you'd asked me and Steve if we wanted to do this, the answer would have been a flat no. And James obviously knew more than us because we actually ended up winning that episode, and I have this lovely piece of Perspex at home as proof of that. We also won a 2009 Excellence in Innovation Awards with the CRC. Some byproducts of eIDs. eIDs generate lots and lots of data. So in that pedigree matchmaker, I was only interested in the pedigree. But we had text files with tens of thousands of tag reads on them over the period of the trial. And Daniel Brown from Agbu said, I reckon we could have a look at that and see if it tells us anything interesting. So he broke it down into component traits, all that data. So we looked at compatibility, so close reads, how close the lambs were to their mum, average seconds behind their mum, number of times they came through in the trial, the average time a day, the number of days they came through, and how many times per day. It turns out all of those traits are moderately to highly heritable. I could breed for them if I want. I don't know that I need to. All of these traits are actually positively correlated to weaning weight. So there we are with these text files and discovering behavioural patterns that are actually correlated to real-world physical traits. These two traits are negatively correlated to worm egg count. And those couple of traits there refer to sheep that come into water a lot. So do sheep that have worms need to drink more often? Or is it sheep that drink more often don't go far from the trough and eat second-hand grass? I don't know, but it's interesting to find these things in the data. Other things that I've discovered, I keep a record of every time the sheep goes through the auto-drafter, and the auto-drafter logs the time and the second that it did that. And one day I realised I could work out how long these sheep take to go through. So I had a few records that I could have a look at. There was 119 sires that had progeny with more than 100 records. And I thought, I'll look at them in sire groups. And it turns out there's 88 sheep per hour through my auto-drafter between the fastest and slowest sire groups. And that graph looks like that. So here we are, the sire group way up the top. All of his progeny go through the auto-drafter really quickly. This guy down here goes through really slowly. I suspect that's something I could also breed for. I'm not sure if I need to though. So a really quick guide for the producers in the room. If you're interested in using electronic tags, I recommend you go through this process. Actually write down what data do you want to collect. Put headings up. What are you going to do with it? List what you want to do with it. More importantly, how are you going to do it? So what do I want to collect? If it's carcass data or body weights, what do you want to do with it? I want to send it to sheep genetics. That's good. How are you going to get it out of that indicator? How are you going to get it out of that indicator into a software package? How are you going to get it out of that software package to sheep genetics? How are you going to get it back? How are you going to get it back into your software package? And more importantly, once you've got it, what are you going to do different? So if you're not actually going to do anything different, it's not going to be any benefit to you. I'll put to you that you'll need those computer skills to solve all those issues up front before you go and buy your electronic tags and all your kit. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go and learn it, but it means you need that issue solved. So go and find a service provider. Maybe a younger generation on the farm is really keen on computers and they want to do the work for you, but I would suggest if making that younger generation do this work is like getting them to do their homework, that's not going to work. So that's my take-home message for people that want to get into electronic tags. And I'm going to finish up there, Chairman.